All right, everybody. It's good to see you again. Before I get started on the bylaws and going in detail, I just want to recall how we got here. Initially, to be woke meant to be conscientious of injustice, and now it seems to become a method of injustice. And Friedrich Nietzsche said, "He who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster. And when you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." Now, I am convinced that you believe your behavior is protecting kids, but you have become authoritarian in the means to achieve this, ironically, not listening to harm concerns. Woke, socialist, queer, Marxist, communist have all become interchangeable terms describing the current ideology gripping this board's leadership. After following the millions of deaths that happened under socialism, Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote in the Gulag Archipelago, "To do evil, a human being must first of all believe that what he is doing is good." Ideology, that is what gives evil doing its long-sought justification and gives the evildoer the necessary steadfastness and determination. This is a social theory which helps to make his act seem good instead of bad in his own and others' eyes, so that he won't hear reproaches and curses, but will receive praises and honors. So in a long line of attempts to silence growing concerns to the board, especially around facilitating and celebrating child abuse, the board is attempting to pre-approve what they consider acceptable delegations, and also half them from 10 minutes to 5. A constant list of attempts to shut down opposing opinions include deflecting, dismissing, ignoring, removing parental knowledge or involvement, intimidation including legal, releasing public unsigned statements labeling people as racist, sexist, or phobic simply by interrupting presentation as the chair of the board loves to do. Speaking of the chair is supposed to moderate a meeting in a nonpartisan way and take in the concerns of the public. However, the hypocrisy is palpable when the chair forgets to check both her conscious and unconscious privileges and Marxist biases, and she gains the miraculous ability to predict the future harm that may cause to Marxist fragility, and without hesitation goes against the human rights code the board proudly upholds when convenient, protecting freedom of speech, and predictably deems the presentation off topic mid-sentence and shuts it down. Now let's talk about the problematic changes to the bylaws, and I'm going to apply some perspective to help illustrate what I'm saying. New changes to the bylaw include section 15.4, where delegations may be approved, and subpart B, if the board considers the matter within its scope and authority. Only after a complete copy, if submitted and pre-screened, will a delegate have the opportunity of approval. What if it's not in the board's scope to protect girls as they allow boys to go into the change rooms and washrooms by simply stating they're girls? What if it's not in the board's scope to protect minors as early as 4 years old to access specific sexual content books offering sympathetic viewpoints to pedophilia, incest, rape, and sexual activities as the trustees indicated through a vote on October 30th, 2023? What if it's not in the board's scope to support parent rights and involvement as the trustees indicated through their December 11th, 2023 vote or March 18th vote to restrict public access to in-person board meetings? Or even make child transition a secret from parents as indicated in AP 1235 policy that is upheld by this director? Or what about bylaw section 15.4 subpart C, where proposed delegations would require consistency under statutory duties under the Education Act, the Ontario Human Rights Code, and the board's human rights policy? Is it not a human right for children to achieve adulthood confidently and not be convinced that medications that cause physical and psychological ramifications are required to achieve an identity? The Student Protection Act 2002 Part 3 Amendments Chapter 7 2C states that behavior or remarks of sexual nature by the member towards a student is sexual abuse. It is not a human right for children not to It is not a human right for children not to experience sexual abuse, even when the Canadian Charter of Children Protection defines non-contact sexual abuse that includes exposing a child to sexually explicit material and asking sexually intrusive questions or making sexually explicit comments to a child. They also say that sexual abuse involves isolating children from parental figures and manipulating the child into becoming a cooperating participant, which includes the likelihood of undisclosure. Does the Education Act need to make special mandates stating the transition of children is psychologically and physically abusive as covered by the recent CAS report and WPATH files? How is the board consistent with the Act if the board surveys minors on their sexual preference orientation and fosters sexual discussion? You do it precisely because the Education Act doesn't mandate this. This is why the board leadership feels empowered to participate in finding out who is vulnerable and confused and allow special guests and organizations such as OK to Be Me and the Get Real movement to enter schools and promote services ranging from affirming gear such as breast binders and packers to medical therapy, medical referrals, and medical centers who perform surgery. If the topics above are somehow approved, then bylaw section 15.4.3 can ensure that ongoing topics of discussion can only be spoken once within a 12-month period. Conveniently, new changes to bylaw 15.4 also gives the chair and the director power to decide the length of a special delegation meeting and the number of delegations to receive, even if that number is 0. Despite stating tolerance to diversity, equity, and inclusion methods, this board leadership has failed to compel tolerance and inclusion of diverse opinions. The old saying, some ideas are so stupid that only intellectuals can believe them. You know, children are beautiful no matter how they are. And there are only 2 sexes, 0 genders, and infinite personalities. Now, a message to the director before I wrap up. I'm hoping you will consider reading both the WPATH file and the CAS report and reconsider your stance on abusive policies and celebration. Facilitating sexual discussions with minors, giving them access to sexual books, allowing boys to enter girls' private spaces, and promoting transition in the absence of parental knowledge is depraved and degenerate behavior on your part as a grown man who should know better. However, to the leadership, I'm going to say restricting public access and conversations is an attempt to control the crowd and criticism instead of listening and working with parents to educate and keep kids safe. Any staff that encourages or exploits children through sexual conversation, grooms them, has relationships with them, urges them on a path of medical identity, encourages them to a path of medical castration, encourages their sexual identity in any way instead of allowing them to develop naturally on their own time, needs to be removed and jailed. The time has come to move priorities from Marxist ideology to academic success. It's better to remain transparent and open to discussions on these serious matters, and I would advise against modifying the bylaws that allow for pre-approval screening of delegations and hinder freedom of speech. I will close up with this, and I would say I will recommend that you read the CAS report and the WPATH files. These are very big, and we're experiencing a shift in this society, and it's good for you to be informed. There's no reason not to know about this. And I also encourage you to contact the Canadian Centre for Child Protection to get in-depth knowledge on sexual abuse and reporting, and read the Accessing Gender-Affirming KO pamphlet by OK to Be Me, which is given out, citing degenerate transition-related surgeries and WPATH resources. You are direct participants in upholding child abuse in schools, and we got to change that. Thank you. Thank you for watching. If you appreciate the work that I do, please consider supporting me financially. I'm very happy to speak up for the protection of kids, and if you can't support financially, I would appreciate it if you help me overcome the censorship and just share these videos with other people so they know exactly what is happening. I left a link in the description to my Ko-fi account where you can do a one-time donation or a monthly subscription. Anything helps, and your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you once again.